You cannot be more than what you know unless you seek to know.
And then our attitude towards soil, it is very dirty. If a child even steps in the soil without slippers, is nicely slapped. You go back and wear your slippers, and that is how we've lost our connection to the environment.
Madness is not being conscious. Not being conscious means that you do not know. But you do not know that you do not know.
The bliss of ignorance.
We found that when people die and they are out of the body and we pronounced them dead, there is something which remains. You have a conscious presence today, but you do not exist. That is why even tomorrow you will not exist, because you have never been.
Well, hello everybody. Ibra here, Mukasasali, Uncle Bull, and we're back again to another edition to the series of Life is Not What We See, but How We See It. In the last talk we had, Doctor put a few points forward. We looked at blockages to knowing, like ill education, circumstantial blindness, and environmental prejudices. Now, in this installation we're talking about, we want to go and delve deeper into the issue we're talking about. So, hello, Doctor.
Hello, I'm very happy to be here today.
Oh, the pleasure is all ours.
Thank you.
Well, Doc, the last time we were talking, we were going to tackle a point where to see how the human psyche copes with living in a human void, which is basically living unconsciously.
Basically, what we talked about last time, as you briefed, we talked about prejudices. And these were blockages basically to knowing. Meaning, if I'm to recap a little bit, it is about an ill education. When you're ill educated, there is what you do not know, even if it's written on a wall, you don't know. You will not be able to read it. Circumstantial prejudice is when you are blinded by conditions in which you're living. These conditions could be that you're too hungry or you're in a war. The only thing you're thinking about is survival as per that time. The third one is environmental prejudices. The other one was circumstantial blindness. This is environmental prejudices. These environmental prejudices basically state a certain way that you should behave, what you should do, and you end up giving up yourself for a sense of belonging.
The cultural norms.
Which is about within society. So basically when we look at society and we look at the world, it's made of individuals. And these individuals have what I called the human psyche. The human psyche is based on the human void. The void that is inherent, that doesn't know itself, that is the unconsciousness. So let me give an example. There is a scenario of a place, you're in a house, and your house is going to fall in. Maybe it's a storm or a calamity. I want to give an illustrative example. And when your house is going to fall in, they tell you, please stay inside. The storm is over, but we are coming to pick you. But meanwhile, there are robbers on top of the house. And they tell you inside, we are coming for you, but please bear with us. They are speaking, the rescuers are speaking, and giving you these clues. And they tell you, bear with us, we are coming to get you, but right now we cannot do anything. Please, as you're staying inside the house, try to find a hard surface, let the rubble fall on you. We shall try to see if you survived after the rubble and we get you out of it, but that is the only way. There is no way that we can enter that place to rescue you.
I get it.
You get the scenario.
Very similar.
The human reaction, we are trying to understand the human void. The human reaction is going to be, what the hell are you talking about?
Why don't you come right now?
Why don't you come right now? How can you tell me such a stupid thing that you're going to come and get me and you're telling me to get something I can cover on myself so that the robbers fall on me? What if you don't find me? Do you get the first reaction of the human void? When it is, the human void is under fear, doesn't know itself, feels overwhelmed, feels
of the
victimized,
uncertainty.
And that uncertainty, the first reaction is fear. Then there is panic. Then there is anxiety. Then after anxiety, then there is anger. Then what comes last is acceptance. When they accept it, now they begin to say, okay, now I will begin to listen to those that are there, but they've accepted that this is the situation. But the first time, they are not even accepting that such a situation is actually happening. So they are in denial. This is not happening to me. Do you get how the human mind thinks? Because the first thing for a human being to do is flee. How can I be more secure? How can I not face what is in front of me that I fear? So in asking all these questions as they are talking, then you find another one who will come still under fear. Oh my goodness, I think this is my last day. I repent all my sins. I will no longer do these kind of things. Whatever I would have done, God, please forgive me. All that is fear in different kinds of mode. You get what I'm trying to say? So this is how, in basic terms, a human being responds to a human void. It is panic. It is anxiety. It is anger. It is rage. It is fear. It is a need for control.
True.
Okay? So as you're looking at these kinds of dynamics and how a human being reacts in as far as this is concerned, also in those circumstances, there is a tendency to give up and say, it's okay. Now you begin talking to yourself. It's okay. Calm down, Asha. Calm down. Everything is going to be fine. This is not happening. No, it's happening. Calm down. Everything is going to be fine. Now you're trying to tell yourself. Now you're choosing faith over logic. Choosing faith over logic means you've chosen to believe what is impossible to happen in that moment as your reality. You've escaped. You've run to denial. Now you've lifted it into faith. Now you're going to believe into miracles because you need something that defies the reality that you're facing. You need something that is going to tell you that what is happening is not happening. So that is where you're going to say, oh God, you're going to remember every miracle, whether it is Jesus, whether it is Muhammad who has ever done, and you say, now I'm remembering. All those are elements of denial.
Like they say, when your life flashes across your mind at that final moment.
In those moments.
Yeah.
But it's not flashing. You're not even seeing. You can't see anything under that panic and anxiety mode. You've just decided to say, I'm going to get out of here. Because what you're facing is not what you want to go through. So you've decided to tell yourself, I'm getting out of here alive. No matter what, I have something to live for. People who have something to live for, they cannot die. They have to get out because they still have a vision. No, I still have a vision. No. Now you're talking yourself, but confirming the fear you have. Because if you didn't have the fear, you would not be saying even what you're saying.
You wouldn't, yeah.
So that is how weird this interaction is. But also what is the flip side of all those? Those are all circumstantial. Like we were describing the ways in which people block knowing. The reality is, in that time, it would have been, if you were conscious, be conscious of the environment, of what is happening around you. Say, the rubbles are falling on me. What are my chances of survival? Can I do this? You collaborate better when you have accepted and you're conscious of the situation and you have accepted that this is the situation that I'm in. Now, the only gist with human consciousness is that we do not even know when to accept what and when not to be what. Do you get the circumstances? Then also, I've talked about all the incidences with one example of the reactions of our human nature in terms of acting in as far as the human void, is concerned. But there is another flip side where it is not an emergency in terms of illustration and demonstration that I have given. The other side is going to be where, in psychology, studying of human behavior, we come to understand that human beings, when they get familiar with a hard condition, they make that condition normal.
They harden and toughen, like they usually say.
And it's not even about hardening per se. There is a way to normalize abnormal conditions and make them very normal, because it is also a survival mechanism. Like there was a study done with a lot of juvenile cases. Many people who had gone to jail were able to come out, but after they had spent so long in jail, they were not able to live on the outside. So they would commit the same crimes so that they take them back to jail. Because for the time when they were in jail, they were conditioned and programmed that way. They knew how to survive in jail, but not how to survive outside.
Outside the system.
So they kept being these repetitive offenders, who kept doing the same thing or doing another thing, which takes them back in jail because they didn't know anymore how to live in the real world. So there is this psychological condition in human behavior when they are living with a human void, inner emptiness and unconsciousness, of trying to make a very bad situation normal and familiar. They begin thinking that because, even if it is jail, they will still find, and then they'll still find jail to be the normal place to be in rather than be free. To them, freedom doesn't count anymore. They've normalized not having freedom as normal. So it doesn't matter whether you're talking about freedom. What are they going to do about that freedom when they don't even know how to do anything back outside? So they are better off being in jail. They can even say, they will fight, they'll do whatever it is, so that they take them back to jail, and they are not very scared about that. So this pain-adjusted psyche is another way that the human being, copes with the human void. It's called a pain-adjusted psyche, okay? Where you get so much used to pain that it stops to hurt anymore. And another example that I can give also during this time was the African Americans during slavery. But African Americans were not the only people who underwent slavery. There were so many others who went through slavery.
It's true.
And they normalized being a slave to a point that they started getting married like it was normal business. They started singing and dancing. Soul, that kind of music of soul, came from the slave times. Whereas you could sit in your chair today and wonder, how in God's world does a slave even get the energy to sing and even dance within those kinds of conditions?
True.
But after you deny the situation and tell yourself, this is not here, let me create something to make me happy, you intentionally go, onto that kind of environment. And what happens when you get this pain-adjusted psyche? People begin to sing. They begin to make fun of whatever they are going through. They become sadistic about their own kinds of conditions too. You become sadder than the sad condition in which you're living, to a point that there is no more sadness anymore. And this is what becomes a very interesting thing.
More or less like a comfort zone.
There is no comfort zone in pain. You create a new normal. And this new normal that you have created is what you use to navigate, and you say, okay, this is what I'm going to go through. And in fact, you'd find that when people, also studies in psychology, were able to tell and analyze human behavior and the human void, and they are able to see that most people you see as activists, when they come from those situations, almost like slavery or adverse conditions, they have nothing to lose. So they will easily adjust, even understanding African American culture, there are books about it. They come out, and the civil rights movement came out of this behavior of slavery and the pain-adjusted psyche of dealing with the human void. As a result of that, they were able to come out, fight for certain rights, because they were not afraid anymore. How worse could it get after slavery? And then they take you to jail. What is jail that hasn't been done to you in a nutshell?
Slavery, very true.
So in this pain-adjusted psyche is where you see that it's what gave birth to the civil rights movement worldwide. It is people who really have gone through so much pain that it doesn't make any difference. Every day of their lives is like dying. So even if you tell them they are going to kill you, they've died 1,000 times, this won't be new. Living is no longer even making any sense. So you will always put your life on the line because of where you come from. And not to say it in any terms, but people who have been in backgrounds or slums or that kind of environment, they are very good activists because of this. The pain-adjusted psyche of the human being is another way that human beings cope throughout this void. But then you also have to understand that one of the things why we are talking about pain-adjusted psyche, it is all stopping you from knowing yourself and who you truly are as consciousness. So what you are actually fighting is resisting knowing yourself and your true self. Because you fear the unknown. It is not familiar. That is why you remain in jail. Rather than go out and you're like, what am I going to do with the freedom now? What is normal life like? So human beings like to be controlled. They like to be told what to do. More or less given a template of do this, and when you do it, you go to heaven. Do this, and when you do it, you do this. Do this. They like that kind of direction. But the main motivator is fear. If fear was not around, there would not be control. Because when human beings are so afraid of themselves, so afraid of freedom, so afraid of who they are, so afraid of knowing what they did not know before, but they are not afraid of the darkness because it is them, but they are afraid of anything else that is an opposite light to what is familiar, they would rather have someone take their responsibility of knowing of them. Why do they fear that responsibility? They don't know themselves. And the other reason they don't know, the other reason they do not take that responsibility is because they fear to be judged as failures. So they begin to stay in those conditions where they do not have to take personal responsibility, and they do not also have to be judged as failures. So the pain-adjusted psyche lives that way. And because of that, fear and control go hand in hand. It would be impossible to control anyone if they did not give up the view of wanting to know who they are. If they knew who they were, they would be so self-regulated. But when they are not self-regulated, they do not need the responsibility for themselves. So they want somebody else. Society, this is where the environmental prejudices come in. You give up yourself, you take up what the society wants. So you give up yourself because you do not want personal responsibility for yourself. And then anything outside of you takes over in the guise that you'll never rise up as yourself. You get what I'm saying?
So you become a conformist.
So now what happens is that there is the degree of fear and the degree of control always go hand in hand. People will be controlled to the extent that they fear. If they are fearless, they become difficult to control. But if they are not fearless, they can regulate themselves. And also, as you give away the power, and you say, now I'm giving away my power to another person, to a leader, this is the root where leadership comes from. Leadership comes from knowing that there is a fear within people, and they've given whatever they fear to me so that I help them navigate through it. Now here is the illusion. When people do not have themselves, they do not know who they are. They are fearful in nature. That is why they cannot even self-regulate themselves. What have they given you? Have they really given you power?
Not really.
They don't have it, because power and fear cannot be in the same place. So they have given you their fear. You whom they've given your fear, are you also fearless? No, you're fearful. That is why you take the fear of those who have given you an illusion of power to be something, because it is also you.
Interesting.
You get what I'm trying to say? So now, here you are as a leader. Because they've given you responsibility for themselves. You get what I'm trying to say? And they've given you the power to control and give them direction on where to go. This is what leadership is. It is the navigation of people's fear and taking over responsibility in order to show them where to go. And it is the control of people away from fear, using fear. That is leadership. Control of people using fear.
Okay.
Who cannot self-regulate themselves. So whether this leadership is political, whether it is within a family, even a family, you can't control people who are responsible for themselves.
No, you can't.
Neither can you control people who do not have fear. But because they fear, Daddy, please help me, show me the way. Because they don't want to take responsibility for anything, your sense of validation comes to someone coming to ask you for pocket money. If they're not asking you for pocket money, you have no use. If you're not paying school fees, you have no use. You know, so this is the leadership. The gist of leadership is the navigation of people's fear and taking over responsibility.
To guide them.
To guide them and may help them soothe whatever they fear. Whether it is within a family, whether it is within the community, that is what it is. But the illusion here is that there is no power involved in all that. It is fear. People can't give you what they don't have. When people are not powerfully empowered and authentically empowered as human beings, they are not giving you any power. So you're building on an illusion of power. What is power? Power and fear can't be in the same place. You can't be fearful and be powerful at the same time. So that means to be able to control a human being, you have to bring in other mechanisms of control. Otherwise, that power, that anxiety, because they are within conditions they cannot control, it brings in a totally different ballgame. And this is where humanity and how humanity copes with the human void.
Wow, that's interesting. Well, still on the discussion of life is not what we see and how we see it. Our topic has basically been behavioral responses to human psyche, of the human psyche to adverse circumstances in life. So we've looked at how leaders get blessed with the people's fear. Navigating.
In other words, they also don't have the power that people expect them to have. Who has it? Nobody. You know?
Now, at
So
that,
you imagine this we are in a political situation and we say so and so has power. In other words, you've given people to take away something they really cannot take away. You've given them the illusion of power. It is not there. You've actually given them fear. But which fear of theirs they also have? The reason they are recognizing yours is because they are saying we all have power, but we all have fear, but let me take up the role of trying to regulate. So this whole thing you call power so and so, it doesn't exist.
that's where you mentioned the element of adding other elements.
To try and control. Control is not power.
Okay.
You get what? You're trying to control elements that make a person not to fear. This is what leadership is. It has nothing to do with giving you better services as a human being. So leadership will never perform. It's not in its dynamic. If you try to solve hunger and world problems, it's never going to be. It is an illusion. You want something else, but you're living a different reality. This is an illusion.
True.
You're asking for something to change things it does not have the power to change. Because it's not even able to see its own truth. So what is it changing at the end of the day? This is the illusion of power. It's not there. It is all fear.
Wow, interesting, Doctor. With that in mind, Doctor, how do you define the concept of time and money around the human void?
Now, when I talked about the elements of control under fear, the elements of control you have to bring into issues: time and money. With the time, you're trying to solve the human void of saying that if I spend a certain hours of my day dedicating my time to doing a specific task, which I call constructive by my definition. But what is constructive in fear is also another illusion. You know, so it is.
I get you.
And you're telling yourself, you know, that once I do this constructive act, then I am having a meaningful life. Meaning comes to be that I'm spending my life in a certain way, doing specific things which I term to be constructive. That is where the element of time comes in. In other words, the more time you spend doing certain things which are deemed in society according to environmental prejudices that these are good things, these are bad things, then life is meaningful that way. But who is defining meaning? All people under fear are defining everything they need in order not to be fearful as what is the meaning in life.
One more time.
All people under fear are defining everything that they want to avoid in life as what is meaningful in life.
Loud and clear.
Do you get it? So for as long as you do those things that make people not fear or that make the human void not to be as eminent through fear, that is meaning. In other words, that avoids that fear, smoothens it over, is also what is good. You see what environmental prejudices are? That is good. Then anything which instigates that fear, it is bad. So does bad and good really exist?
Apparently.
Now time.
Vision.
Does time really exist? Time doesn't. Because in physics, when you look at the dynamics of the universe and planets and interplanetary bodies and all that, whatever you want to call it, there are two things in physical matter, in physics, that exist.
Yes.
That is matter and energy. Matter is this body, but it's what makes the entire universe is matter. Even this is matter. The body you have, the body I have. Energy is what sets this matter, the body, in motion. It helps it move. Remember last time we talked about bodies in motion.
Oh, yes.
The energy inside, which is consciousness, is what helps matter move. Also, it helps matter to transform itself. Do you get what I mean? Meaning, it grows, you grow nails, you grow hair, you grow gray beards. That is energy enabling matter to change its form. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And as it changes form, you know, it changes from one form to another, changes from one form to another. Today you're young, the other day you're a baby. It is the energy inside which is enabling matter to be able to transform. That is pure physics for you. Time, as we know it to be time, does not exist. It is a mind control program that centers human activity around 24 hours, which are a mental invention. And we calculate this is 60 seconds, that is that. And then when we reach here, then our life has been meaningful because we've spent it so productively doing this type. But the time you're talking about is a program, it doesn't exist. So even the time, not only is power an illusion, even the time that we are focusing all our time and saying, spend your time productively, it doesn't exist. There are two elements, matter and energy. And energy is what moves the body and helps it to transform. So energy is what you are, you're not matter. It is the energy inside, which is consciousness, that helps you to transform, to even become old, experience what being old is, while bringing lessons of consciousness to you so that you get to know who you are. All these things I was talking about, avoidance of the human psyche, it is all playing hide and seek with the self, where we are hiding from knowing our true self. And we are creating things that prevent us from knowing because we fear to know. Now this is the human vault. The human vault is like the deep pigeonhole, you know, where the human being, you know, is put. You know, there is a word in French which says oubliette. Oubliette means, It's like they used to take people in those olden times. They would put them in a dark dungeon and then they cover them. Once you go in those deep dungeons, the French people, you'd not come out. It's like a cave. Deep down, it has no door. And once they would put you there, they would more or less forget you. So they used to call that place called an oubliette. So life is also like that dungeon. In realistic, if I'm trying to elaborate it, that dungeon where they put you and you've forgotten who you are. It's like a place of oubliette, to forget. And what you are there to do is to try and come to consciousness and remember who you are.
Yeah.
You get it? So, in other words, the dilemma of the human vault in which a person is to forget, which I called oubliette in French, is the more fear you have, the more of aggrandized fear you get, the more waking up you will get. So you realize that this world, and say, why is the world not good? It is not good because it's not comforting you. And in Bahasa, they say sayang. It's not sayanging your fear. It's not covering it and giving it love. It is exposing it. That is what life is. You get what I'm trying to say? So in as far as time is concerned, and the illusion of money, time is concerned, before I even go to the illusion of money, really, it doesn't exist.
Wow, that's
But we live now, we have unraveled two things: power, the illusion of it. Who has it?
It's a collection of people's fear.
Giving someone control. Who is equally fearful? How can you trust something? How can you trust fear? And then later you blame it. It hasn't done this. There is no human gender there to improve humanity or human lives. So it doesn't matter whether you change. Let us say in the political field, it doesn't matter whether you change from one sphere, go to another political party. It's the same. It doesn't matter whether this family is that. All family issues are the same. It is the same thing. It's all about fear.
Interesting.
So time, now the money element, when I finish talking about that and what would the importance of life be, the money element now comes in, that if I have spent so much time, it's also a control tool now, used by fear. Now, if I have, it's also all working on the psyche, by the way. This is why I say the human void psyche. It creates things which are not real and calls them real, and then makes real things to appear unreal. It is a flip side of living life, but not the reality. Something may look reality, but not the truth. Neither do you live the truth of a human being. So now what happens with money, it is the assumption. I will be given, in some countries they even count it, you're given money after working a month. So because you have spent yourself, your time, giving most of your time, basically you go back home only to rejuvenate,
And
so that you
come
wake
back
up
to
the next day and go to live for something where you sell yourself, sell your time. Remember, this is the definition I gave you of environmental prejudices. You sell yourself and who you are in exchange for a sense of belonging. But at the end of the day, how can you belong to something else when you don't even belong to yourself?
That is true. So that means that by the time you become less productive, you are retired.
You're retired. You're no longer... Now this one is to serve you. Now you've given us your body matter. And then the essence inside there, which is the energy, already is making it change. Now it has changed into an old person. You are under the illusion that what makes life is this body. By the time you come off work, you're like, now my life is going. But no, your life has never gone. It has never gone anywhere. It is still with you. Your body matter has changed. Your inner consciousness has transformed it. And now... And now you're looking at how your body is, and you're saying, look, now I have grown old. The truth of your being was such, but you're not this body. You're again living another illusion under money. that what is going to make your life meaningful is how much time you take at a workplace, how much time you sell yourself and you're able to earn. So the more money you earn, the more meaning your life will be. Meaning that money can buy anything, money will fix anything until that day comes when you have something that money cannot buy.
Money can't buy. True.
Then you're so disoriented because you've been living an illusion that leaves a puzzle unanswered, which is the human void. Who am I? Where did I come from? What is life all about? How do I understand the circumstances around me? When people die, where do they go? That is the human void, the real quest for meaning. So as we are busy chasing money, chasing time, chasing the illusion of power and politics and control, we are actually chasing and trying to find ourselves, consciously or subconsciously. And this is why, at the end of the day, when we are trying to copy and try to cope with the human void, there are three key elements to look at here: fear, control, and materialism. Materialism helps us that when there is no time that we are dedicating and no money that we are earning, and we still can't avoid ourselves. We've given power to politicians. Now we are no longer responsible ourselves or for leaders in our families. We can now ask them why our lives are not getting better. Why our lives are not getting better? Because due to the human psyche, you avoid yourself. You're so afraid. You don't know how to take personal responsibility for yourself. Remember, we began by defining what an awareness is. It involves a sense of truth, personal responsibility for yourself, and then a sense of imagination. Here, you don't even want to imagine. You want to be told, go here, do this, do it that way. Friedrich Nietzsche, an intellectual one time of the Renaissance, he once said that there are two kinds of people in this life: those who want to know and those who want to believe. Those who want to know about enlightenment, they will ask themselves the questions of the human void.
Why this?
Why this? Why is my life this way? Who am I? What's the meaning of life? And then they try to find that. Then those who want to believe, what they are told is what they will do. So now they will catch the person who has told them something and they've done something else. They told us last time they are going to do this, but now this is not it. And this is what fills up human life. Things that are really not substantial, things that are illusions. And this is how everything goes. John Lennon, he was a musician. He one time summed it up and he said, what all this is fear. Fear of the unknown. That is what it is. You know, this was a quote of his. He said, whether you're chasing war, whether you're chasing illusions, whether you're chasing music, whether you're chasing love, whether you're chasing money, it is all illusion. Here is the mark of the game. Just say that we are scared and we don't know what it is, you know, and all we fear is the unknown. Call it the unknown. And then you're on top of the game. From there, then you know what to do, you know. But if you keep saying you don't fear the unknown and yet you actually do, you're living an illusion. That is what it is. Fear of the unknown.
Wow.